Welcome to Career Bits, the weekly podcast of the University Career Center at UNC Charlotte. I'm Jay, and this week our topic is part-time jobs, and we have a special guest on to discuss this with us. Michelle Wan is the Job Location Development Program Coordinator for the Career Center. Michelle, welcome to Career Bits.
Hey, Jay. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you on. And so I want to start with that job location and development program. That's not something a lot of people know about, but I know and you know that it works with employers to seek part-time job opportunities for our students. But I wanted you to tell everyone a little bit about the JLD and how it works and why it's so special that UNC Charlotte has this.
Right. So job location development, in short, is JLD. So when students see those acronyms, which you'll find a lot of them at the universities, you'll know we're talking about this program. And it's a federal program that provides funds for us to locate off-campus positions for students, like part-time, temporary seasonal, full-time non-degreed opportunities for students to be able to work while they're in school. The nice thing is with it, I get to work with a lot of employers as part of the employer relations team. And we have a lot of consistent employers helping us locate these opportunities for students and putting those job opportunities in Hire a Niner. Our team will also host with this 2 part-time job fairs. We do one in the fall, one in the spring. And our first one's actually October 1st, which will be a virtual platform. And we're excited because we usually host about 75 employers, max is all we can have with this event. And we sell that event out every single time with a waiting list of employers trying to get in here to hire UNC Charlotte students. So it's very exciting. And the nice thing too, and exciting, is not every school in the U.S. has a JLD program. So we're very fortunate to be able to have this hosted through financial aid to give us the funds to be able to do this program.
That is fantastic. Michelle, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the things you've heard from students and also employers about the value of working off-campus jobs while you're in school.
Yeah. So students, sometimes they come in and they don't know, like, do I want to work? Do I not want to work? And then they figure out, like, wow, I need more funding than I thought because there's things I want to buy or things I want to do. So it's been great for these students to find these opportunities. And the thing is, when students come in, they think it's just going to be basic, like restaurant, retail, food, and beverage. But we have such a diverse group of employers that participate and post opportunities. Everything from, Best Impressions Catering does a lot with our students. But we also have Amazon. We have a lot of things with healthcare, veterinaries, theater and arts, insurance, designs, admin positions, teaching. It is so diverse across the way. Students can find a lot of everything for themselves. And the great thing we noticed with the last job fair we were doing in the spring, we added a field to kind of see what employers were paying these students with the part-time job fair. So some, of course, varies. With restaurant jobs, it's a small base plus tips, but the average employers pay ranges were $8 an hour to $26 an hour. So those were great opportunities and things that students could look at, knowing that it would work around their class schedules, because that's what we encourage our employers to know, like, they're students first, but they also need to, pay for school or books or, housing and different things. So, it's very flexible that way. And last year, we have to report these positions back to the government to keep getting the grant funds. And the great thing about it, we had over $3.2 million in estimated earnings from just the off-campus positions.
In addition to the off-campus jobs and the employers you work with, you also liaison with our student employment office on campus to funnel positions into Hire a Niner. So tell folks a little bit about how that works and the different kinds of things that they can find if they choose to work on campus.
Yeah, so we in the Career Center have used Hire a Niner for several years. And in the last 2 years, it took us years before that to encourage them to jump on board. But everybody on campus decided the best thing for our students was kind of a one-stop shop opportunity to find positions, because not every student can work off campus. So we've connected with the student employment office. So not just the off-campus positions, but you'll find the student temp wage, the federal work study, graduate assistance, and UPIP opportunities, which is the University Professional Internship Program run through the Career Center. The nice thing with this, and we had agreement with student employment, was these are building blocks for students, even freshmen, because a lot of people think they have time to wait, but it's a very competitive market. So students can come into the system, maybe find something on campus, especially if they don't have transportation, We're working the fortunate thing of having a light rail right on campus that takes you all the way over to Pineville area. We're actually kind of riding the light rail, and we've been doing tracking of employers that are located right off the light rail, so we can expand the base of employers to reach out to post opportunities and hire Niners. So, with those, we decided they are building blocks for students to, build their brand, start building their resume. Even as a freshman, it may be very small, but utilizing those things and adding value of on-campus opportunities as well to keep building that and redesigning themselves and not waiting until they're a senior actually to do it.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about what students need to do to get their profile set on Hire Niner to start applying for positions, whether they're on or off campus.
Yeah, so every student has access to Hire Niner. And including if they graduate as an alumni, you have access to Hire Niner for life. We never turn away our alumni because we love having them back as recruiters, because it's a great way to network with students that are here as well as people who were students. One, it's a great pipeline for those new organizations. But when a student first comes into Hire Niner, it's going to ask them to set up their profile and their basic information. And you're also going to be required to upload a resume. Everybody that uploads a resume, the very first one you ever do needs to be an approved resume. So on your Documents tab, there will be a feature for a resume checklist. As long as you're going by that checklist to start your resume, that's your first step in everything. You'll also be requested to select a career community, which is something we've been doing for a couple of years out of our office. And you can read more about it at our career site at career.uncc.edu. You don't have to select the one that's specific to your major, because the whole point of career communities is, yes, you may be a business major, but you may have interest in also theater and arts. So how can you combine the major with the interest that you have? So you can select one, you can select all, but it's also going to help you as networking, connecting with employers who host events with us to be able to get that access to say, hey, here's another great opportunity for me.
That's excellent. So one thing that often happens with students as they're submitting resumes, they get it back and they get a little feedback with it. That's not uncommon though, right? The reason we do that is to maintain that high quality control on resumes, to make sure students are putting their best foot forward.
Right. We used not to do the resume approvals, and there was, I have to say, some pretty ugly resumes out there. When we went into this process, we actually used our employer recruiters as the feedback of what they're looking for on those resumes. So that's where we were able to design. So we have gotten so much feedback from our employers as to the resumes from UNC Charlotte students are fantastic, because they see like the content is good. When they start using some of the services, there's bullets that can help put them in there based off jobs or organizations on campus that they've joined, to help build that brand. So don't get, kind of rumbled up if you get it back going, well, sorry, it wasn't approved. They're going to give you content and edit feedback on there just to be able to get you to start learning how to do it. And after you do it the first time, then you kind of like, oh, this is great. But if you ever need help, we have virtual drop-in services. We have in-person drop-in services, so you can make appointments to be able to get those things done every day of the week that we're constantly doing this. And I do encourage you, do not wait to do this, because when we had the start of school last year, we had about 1,600 resumes that we had to approve, but our team was knocking them out for students, to get them in there as fast as they could. So again, you're starting it and you're just building it and readjusting it over time.
Exactly. Starting early is key. And like I say, we've got resources to help you through that. Michelle, the last thing I want to do is pick on the other part of your expertise we haven't talked about yet. You're also the parent of a current UNC Charlotte student who works part-time while in school. So I wondered, from the parent's point of view, for any parents that might be listening to this, the value you see in your student working part-time while in school and how that balances out with education and all the other things that she wants to do.
Yeah. At first she thought I was crazy, honestly, because, when she was a senior in high school and I'd be like giving her this information until she was able to be in a class and answer it. The teacher was like, how do you know all this? And she goes, well, my mom works at the Career Center. So I then realized she was listening at least. But we've noticed when she came in for her freshman year last year, they've got to start it's very hard for us to kind of cut the cord and let them fly on their own a little bit. I really don't want them to work the first semester or even their first year, but I had to let her kind of make those decisions and find that balance in it. So, the one thing that she has now taken on for herself is she's realized that after she finishes her sophomore year, she wants to study abroad because she figures that's the best time to do it, because as she enters her junior year, she wants to already be in an internship, because there's certain places she's already looking at as a starting sophomore, and she's researching that information now to determine what may be required of her when she gets into that junior and senior year. So that's the thing. Have your students start looking at companies they may be interested in. They necessarily haven't picked a major yet for some of them, but they really need to go ahead and start that process now. And she actually gave me a thank you, Mom, for, giving me that information. And the great thing too, as a parent, it's hard, because we may have a lot of parents that have never experienced this. So we have a great resource on our career website, which is for parents and families. And it gives you information. So that way we can help support our student, because again, they're still young, even though they're like, well, I'm 18 now and I'm grown and I'm going to college. They still don't know everything. I'm sorry. They don't know how job offers work or what insurance benefits are, some of the different things. So there's a lot of resources for parents on there that, not working here, I would greatly appreciate as a parent.
Fantastic. Michelle, thanks again for coming on Career Bits and sharing all this great information.
Oh, you're welcome, Jay. And we're excited to have your students with you. Go Niners.
Excited to bring on Patrick, the executive director, or as we call him, illustrious potentate of the University Career Center.
I'm here. I'm back.
Yeah, and Lori Brazili, assistant director for career meetups and career coach from the technology, data, and analytics career community. Lori, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Otherwise known as my favorite career coach, but don't tell anybody else I said that.
It'll just be our secret.
Okay.
Right. So I've been talking with Michelle a little bit about her work with the job location development program and part-time jobs on and off campus, but I thought it might be fun to have us talk a little bit about our part-time experiences while in school. So Lori, let's start with you. Talk a little bit about your part-time work experience when you were an undergrad and a grad student.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been working since I was 16. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. My dad was like, you're 16, you're getting a job. And so I was lucky to have that part-time job. I worked in retail. I kind of continued that throughout my entire undergraduate experience. And so I was able to go back home and work on breaks and things like that. So that was helpful just in terms of, getting some extra income. And then I was very fortunate to go to a college where about 90% of the student body worked on campus. So it was very common for people to have on-campus jobs. And so as soon as I, got to campus my first semester, I was working for the annual fund. I was, telephoning alumni, asking them for donations. And I kind of had a variety of different jobs throughout my career in college, anywhere from cleaning toilets to to planning, planning student events on campus. And so I got kind of a wide variety of experience. And then in grad school, I had an assistantship. And so that was great because that was mostly related to, what I was going to school for, which was in the student affairs kind of background. So, so I had a lot of experience just working a lot of variety of different jobs in school.
And I'm so glad to hear about the toilets because the other duties as assigned in our office, now we have more opportunities where we can make sure everybody's getting new experiences. This is exciting. Thanks for having her on, Jay.
Yes. If you need somebody to do a hospital bed, I know how to fold the hospital bed and all that stuff.
I know how to run those floor wax machines and stuff and how to mix the chems and everything. So yeah, just put me where you want me on that machine. No problem.
That's exciting. Well, heck, so back in the day, there was, 6 feet of snow, and we used to walk uphill both ways. So if you haven't heard that, that's what we did back in the day. That's right.
What you did in the 1940s, right?
Yeah, and if you ever seen my picture a long time ago, I actually had hair. So this is back in the days of hair. I went to a university that was local to, where I went to high school. So I had 2 part-time jobs in college, and I worked on weekends and during the week. And the reason I did that is very similar to you, Lori. My parents said, yeah, you're going to go earn your own darn money, and there you go. But also it helped me pay for college. And, a lot of students are in that boat, just like all of us. So I worked at a place called Kmart. So if you remember Kmart fall apart. They fell apart. And then I quickly transitioned into Eckerd's. So I don't know if you guys know Eckerd's. It's kind of like
the old drugstore.
Yeah. So I was just up front, and it was before they had scanners. And so we had to type in a 6-digit code. So that's literally how old I am. And then we had those old credit card machines where you swipe it back and forth with the carbon copy. And so that was my thing. And then my second job was in a frame shop. So I worked in an art gallery, and I literally made the frames for artwork. So I would cut the wood, I would shape the wood, I would staple the wood together and stain it and paint it and do all those things that you see, like Jay, the painting right behind you right now. So that was my job, and I did that all 4 years. And then graduate school, like Lori, I got a graduate assistantship. So for those of you who don't know what that is, a lot of times it's like a 15 to 20 hour a week sort of thing. It's very relatable to your intended career path. And in some universities and colleges, they'll support you with tuition and other different things. But that's kind of what I did, and that got me into where I am today. What about you, Jay?
Oh, man. So as an undergraduate, I worked both on campus and off campus. Like you guys.
And the snow and the hills both ways, right?
No, I didn't have that because I went to school in Alabama. So, when we got snow, it was like shut the state down time.
So
but I worked for the local newspaper, which at the time was a New York Times regional newspaper, which means it always ran, whether it snowed, rain, or something. We were like the post office. And so I worked in the circulation department. And when I finally narrowed in on my major, I was going to go into journalism, but I thought it was neat to work on the business side of journalism, which also convinced me that I didn't want to go into that direction for other reasons. But I did everything from call people that had started their subscription to make sure it got there on time, to call people that had missed their paper to apologize to them, tell them we're going to get them a new one out. I ran these big reports on 11 by 17 dot matrix paper. I can still remember what part of the report was running based on the cadence of the printer. I separated all of that kind of stuff. So I did that while I was off campus. I mean, I sold newspaper subscriptions in grocery stores to people, just anything circulation wise I did. And then when I was in college, I worked in the library. I ran the computer lab. Back in those days, it was really rare for you to have your own computer that much, or at least have access to good printers. So I ran the computer lab in the library on the graveyard shift. So I worked like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. I read a ton of books here and then, didn't do a lot of homework because I realized I wasn't that productive that late at night. But so I didn't sleep a lot when I was in school, but I did all of that stuff. And a lot of the technical know-how I have now comes from that experience of working in that lab, and the IT people at the university kind of trusted me with stuff that they probably shouldn't have, but they didn't want to come out there at 10 o'clock at night. So they just showed me where to find everything and to fix it. And so I did a lot of that stuff, man. I had a lot of weird part-time jobs though. I mean, I've told this before to you all, but I worked as a ring announcer for some guys that had like a semi-professional wrestling league in town for a while.
Whoa.
Yeah, I did a little bit of radio. I did some concert promotion, pretty much anything to make a little bit of money on the side. That was kind of my primary motivation. But when I got into school for about a year or two, I had older friends who convinced me that no matter what job I was doing, I could pull something from it that would be useful. And I was so thankful for that, because now we really teach that a lot with transferable skills and all that kind of stuff. But early on, someone had impressed that idea upon me. No matter what you're doing, you can take parts of it and talk about it. So that's where I want to transition to you guys. And Patrick, we'll start with you. What did you pull from those part-time jobs and things while you were in school that you still use to this day?
Money. It definitely helped pay for books and everything. And, it really helps reduce the stress. I mean, that's obviously a big thing. But, really quick, what's very interesting is, for the longest time that I've been in this business, the high majority of employers love to see students who do part-time jobs. It doesn't matter if it's a Kmart like me or on-campus job where you're mentoring other students. They just want to see that you've been in, quote, the work world. I mean, they just love that aspect. It's that internships that really draw their eyes to the type of engaged worker that you might be. But, for me, two things really quickly come to mind that I think helped me learn about myself, and then I've, pivoted it towards my career. Is one, when I was at the frame shop, I had to learn really quickly how to be strategic to get all the work done. I mean, it wasn't just turn off your brain and get it. I mean, you had orders, they had to be particular and specific, and then you had to figure out, how do I get it done in 4 hours? So I really learned that I love strategy. And so, that's part of my job now. And then the other part was around communication. So like, even working at a Kmart or at Eckerd's, man, you dealt with people, and you dealt with the people that are out there that are both good and not so good. And so you have to learn that finesse of how to deal with just the general public out there. And that's helped me today in the in the role that I am in, and I'm sure for right after that.
Yeah, and I think something that's stuck with me that I heard just in terms of feedback from employers is it was that, part-time job experience or just work experience in general that allowed them to, feel confident in giving me a chance. So my first job out of college, I started working as a recruiter, not having any experience, but the fact that I had like customer facing experience through retail and just working with different types of people through my experience and on-campus jobs, I think was something that really stood out to employers. And then when I was applying for my assistantship in grad school, the fact that I had just all this work experience to bring to that position was something that I had received feedback on. And so I think employers do look at, any type of experience being valuable. And that's something that I think, what Jay was talking about, that sometimes, we have to help students kind of think through, the value that brings to your resume, to your brand, because you might not necessarily think that, this restaurant job can help me in any way. So I definitely think from like the employer perspective, you're building those transferable skills that you can kind of, take and apply to no matter what career you end up going into. So I think that's valuable. And then something else too to think about that just I think is, my experience that some may be able to relate to is just it was through my on-campus job experience that I kind of found like my purpose or my calling, because I happened to have experiences in kind of student affairs type of offices. And once I figured out that that's what I really wanted to do, I didn't really want to go into public relations, which is what I majored in. But once I figured out that that's what I wanted to do, I was able to seek out those experiences. And so for a student that is, exploring different types of career fields, one strategy is to kind of seek out experiences that might give you a little bit of an insight into what that looks like, sort of like an internship.
Yeah, Lori, like I had said before, I worked at the newspaper thinking that was where I was going to go. And working there, I realized like that really wasn't for me. And that's fine if you go into that route. And I think media has changed so much since I was in college. But I found career services through working on campus. One summer, I repainted residence halls as part of Residence Live's feature. By the way, you haven't lived until you've tried to repaint cinder block walls that people have put like different color handprints on, y'all. I'm going to tell you. But I became aware that there were all these people that worked at the university that weren't faculty. And I was like, what do you do that? How do you get that gig? So I talked to my own hall director, and I said, Brian, who are all these people? And he said, oh, that's student affairs. That's academic affairs. This is what these people do. And that's what planted the seed in my head of like, maybe that's something I could go and follow on. And, 3 years later, I indeed did.
We're at a really great university, and Chancellor Gaber, if you're listening, we love our new chancellor. Welcome to the university. I just had to put it out there on behalf of the Career Center. But anyway, what I want to get at is what's interesting for me, when I went to college back in the day, undergrad, I never knew about on-campus jobs, that they even existed, or how to go find them. And what I love about what our crew does is that, we have a part-time job fair. We have an on-campus event that we're going to be doing, like on-campus jobs event. We have somebody like Michelle who's on our staff that's really coordinating all these different things to make sure students realize a UPIP program. How did you all learn about these on-campus jobs during your time?
Yeah, so what I was sharing is that student work was really just kind of integral to the college that I went to. So I went to Berry College, and so that's part of like the mission. And so it was part of the kind of onboarding of, students into that first year. So when you went into orientation, you were already set up with, a job, and you could kind of, decide if you wanted to keep that job after, the first semester, or if you wanted to kind of change and kind of try something new. So it was already kind of integrated into the mission of the college. So that was kind of my experience. And so I think in terms of reflecting on that, my favorite experience was working for our guest cottages. So we had guest cottages on campus, and I worked so many hours there that I ended up being like a student supervisor and just kind of getting to interact with alumni and friends that would come and stay at the cottages. I mean, it really was kind of run like a hotel. So I think that was, really valuable. And I don't know that I have like the worst experience because I did have to clean toilets as part of the guest cottage experience.
We might use that one as your worst experience.
Yeah. So that could be the worst.
That would be mine. I mean, I do it, but I'd rather not.
So, but they were all good. They all had a benefit. Certainly all of the ones that were like student affairs focused, were fun just because it kind of got me to see what kind of functional areas exist within that field, which is what I ended up kind of going into.
For me, I'm proud to say the University of North Alabama, even our small little career center that really grew a lot when I was later in college, but my freshman and sophomore year, the big thing they were known for was you could go and take the strong interest inventory and figure out what you wanted to major in, or you could look at their physical job board. They had this massive cork board outside of their offices in the student union where they would post off-campus and on-campus jobs. And literally, it's like some of the little party flyers you see now where you tear off the little number or whatever. That's where I found the on-campus jobs I had. I mentioned I worked in the library. I was also an editor 2 different times for the campus newspaper. And that kind of transitions to my best experience. Those were tough jobs. Working on the campus paper was a tough gig. Late nights putting that thing together, and basically the night just bled into the next morning. And I was an idiot that worked till 2 a.m. and had 8 o'clock classes. So there was no sleep, in the middle of the week. But the coolest part about that was as a freshman and a sophomore and a junior and all that, I got to sit down and have audience with campus leadership. Like our VP of student affairs and academic affairs knew who I was personally. Deans of colleges knew me, and I could have conversations with them. And what that taught me was, even though as a lowly student that didn't know anything, I could go and have audience with those people and ask them questions. They would answer me back. As a part of that, I got to interview a gentleman that was running for U.S. Senate in our state at the time. I got to ride on his campaign bus, do all that. So I got some cool experiences with that. The toughest thing, I think, was probably working at that those jobs where I was doing a lot of customer service facing stuff. And it's not that I don't like customers, but it can be challenging from time to time when I can't find a better way to explain to you why your paper's late when there is 4 inches of snow on the ground. So dealing with that, or, the person that didn't use autosave or save their paper and then lost it all as they tried to print it, they have to explain to that person, you're going to have to redo it. What can I do to help? Those were tough experiences, but I treasure them because it did teach me how to work with people that were in a high stress moment and help them work through the problem and work through problems as they come up. And that's something I do a lot of today. 9/10 of my job is problem solving, and I look
Maybe we
back.
shouldn't have so many problems.
Well, when you work with people, there are going to be problems, and that's just part of it. But I learned that early on, and I value that now, 20-something years into my career, because I realize I've been practicing to do that years before I started doing it full time.
There's something that you said in all of that was really poignant in that, on-campus jobs, being a student working on campus around administration and faculty, you have like a say in a lot of what's going on. Believe it or not, you might think, I'm just a lowly student, but we all listen to our student workers for their opinions on new events, programs, services, best times of the day, and all of that kind of stuff. So if you want to change a system from within, work on campus. That's a big thing. My worst experience, and maybe you guys can relate to this, would be working at a Kmart or an Eckerd's, and 5 minutes before the closing, that person comes in to do their shopping, and you're like, my goodness, you have 5 minutes, and you do the 3 or 4 times, we'll be closing very soon, and they're still walking around slow. Oh, that was the worst. The best is the people that you work with and meeting and whatnot, and specifically, being graduate assistant, I still talk with all those people, even now, 21 years later, doing that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, same here. I still talk to my first boss in career services, my mentor. We talk all the time, and the connections I made through that are invaluable. I'll tell you one thing we haven't hit on though, but that I have always found to be a valuable lesson from working part time. And when I used to teach freshman classes, I would emphasize this a lot: time management. Having something else where I had to be accountable to be there and stuff helped me manage my time in between classes, my study time, so much better than if I hadn't had it. And not everybody needs that necessarily, but I've always found that to be one of the sort of side ancillary benefits of working while you're in school is it helps you really manage your time, or at least it did for me.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I think personal accountability is really important and something that, two employers are looking for, but just having to, manage even the commute time if you're going off campus and what that might look like. Being able to show up to your job when you're supposed to and those sorts of things, but then being able to talk about, like in an interview, this is kind of what I was doing throughout my time in college. I was working, 20 hours a week. I was taking, 15 hours of classes, and then I was still able to like have, you know, a good outcome in terms of my GPA or whatever that goal was for you. And so being able to, you know, reflect on that and demonstrate, you know, that through an interview is really important, and something that, you know, in the Career Center, obviously we try to help students and coach students through thinking through how they can kind of leverage their part-time job experience in an interview setting.
And I'll say that, you know, time management, of course, it's important. You have all these jobs, all these responsibilities to get your studies done. You can still have fun. I mean, I planned fun. I would go out with friends and we would drink a lot of water and, you know, just sit and watch movies, you know, the things that, you know, that all students do these days. Ha, ha, ha. Right. Okay. But you can still have fun. You can still engage in clubs and organizations. You can still do intramurals. You can still hang out with your family. It's just a matter of being intentional about how you spend your time. And Lori, I love what you're saying. It's like being, you know, paying attention to how long it takes to drive from one area to the other, paying attention to how much you need to study for this class versus that one, or whatever it might be. And what a great resource these days for all these apps that help you manage time, or all these great career coaches, academic advisors, and all the student affairs personnel that are helping you understand all these nuances that maybe you just need a little bit of refinement before you get into, quote, the real world and have to work 40 to 80 hours a week like Lori does.
I work more than you. Probably.
You sure do, Lori. You all work much more than I do, because all I do is watch Netflix these days. But here's the thing. You know, when we're wrapping this whole thing up, part-time jobs, on-campus employment, there's a special purpose for it. And that special purpose is about giving you experience and giving you the ability to not only make money, but sometimes make mistakes and learn who you are, learn how you process the day. And all of this is going to shuttle you forward in your career and making sure that you have a strong foundation to be who you're going to be, engage in the society that we have, and do some amazing things for our world. So that's kind of my closing inspirational thing, Jay. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Lori, Patrick, thanks for coming on and being a part of this episode of Career Bits.
Thank you.
Thanks again for having me.
Folks, you can follow the happenings of the Career Center on social media at Niner Careers. You can also follow us on our website, career.uncc.edu. We're living in some strange and ever-changing times, but have no fear, UNC Charlotte students. The Career Center, along with many other services at the university, we're here for you. We're here to assist you throughout your career and professional development needs. So please link up with us. Let us know what we can do to help, and we'll talk to you again soon.